All right, we are live now. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kumar Pushpak, and I head the team here at Jonas Services. And with me, I have two guests today, Mr. Shreelal Prasad, who is joining in from Delhi, India, and Tim Jerome. He is joining us from Albuquerque, US. Welcome, both of
Video
you.
is paused.
Oh, okay. Is it better now,
No,
Mr.
now better.
Prasad? Okay, wonderful. So, welcome both of you. Oh, he has gone. All right, let him come back. In the meantime, Tim, how are you doing? How's the morning?
Good. It's a little more quiet. Other parts of the United States are doing what United States do well with the climate and craziness and goofiness, but we're doing well here. It's always
Oh.
quiet. It's always a little village atmosphere here.
Well, I can see the sun coming out, coming through your window right there.
Yeah, it's
I
going to
believe
be a
it's a bright
beautiful
and sunny
day.
day.
It's going to be a beautiful
Wonderful,
day.
wonderful. And Mr. Prasad, very good evening. I know you're in Delhi.
Very good.
How's the evening
Good
there?
evening.
Good
Good evening,
evening.
everybody.
Good evening. Good evening. So, the reason we pulled in Mr. Prasad is because of the two reasons. One is the new education policy in India has kicked off.
Are you listening
Just a
me,
couple
Mr.
of
Tim?
Yes.
yeah, you're audible. You're audible. So yeah, the reason we have Mr. Prasad today is because of the two reasons out there. One is because the new education policy has just kicked off in India a couple of days back. A new policy has been rolled out, and Mr. Prasad can talk through and can take some questions related to the education policy and the overall education system. To let you know, guys, Mr. Prasad has been in the banking industry for long. He has retired a couple of years back, but he has been a known face and an expert for government bodies who gives out his consulting services to the government agencies, right, and related to official language, that is Hindi, as well as the overall education systems out there. And Tim, he is our project management expert. Both are here, and we shall start. So, we will be discussing today on the
Yes, okay.
education system as well as the education policy, the new policy which has come in. But before that, Mr. Prasad, if you could help us understand a bit about your experience, about your role, what you have played in so far, and how the journey has been till date, how you started and where your career came in.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Actually, I started my career as a banker. In banking system in India, uh, there are two way of banking. The very first way, which is called mainstream, dealing with all the banking transactions directly. And the other way of banking is called a specialized system of banking. There are some subjects which require specialties and expertise in those subjects. That's why a specialized banking is a part of banking itself. But the main banking, the people, the public know that main banking system, which deals with the whole banking system, the transactions, the public transactions, implementation of government schemes and programs, etc. I was actually concerned with the mainstream banking in the beginning of my career for the seventh year and more. Thereafter, I
Mhm.
shifted towards a specialization. And I have been dealing with a specialized subject in banking for the last 32 years. And that specialized subject was to implement government policies of language that is called official language. And that a specialized subject gave me the experience of education system, and education system particularly for those people who are already well educated and employed in government offices, government undertakings, government departments. That's why the education system in general, which is considered by the people, is quite a different thing, and the education system, that is training system in government organization in a specialized subjects are there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me complete, please. Here I am concerned with the education system as a whole and education system in government organizations or training system, you may say, for particular and specialized subjects. This is the job which I dealt in my career.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how you got related with education in particular? I remember when we spoke, we were talking last. You did mention that you started your career as a lecturer in a college out there. So, how was that experience got evolved over the time?
Actually, in the very beginning, I had been a teacher, and thereafter in banking, that is mainstream banking, and thereafter in a specialized subject of the banking.
Mm-hmm.
To teach people who are totally ignorant or starting the education of the people of a child is the foundation of his not career only. If you want to make change in a society, in country, or in any sphere of life, you have to make change in education system. In my career, by going through teaching profession or banking, mainstream banking profession, or a specialized services in banking system, I found that the government, whatever has made the policies for education, that laid down the education system in the country, is applicable for the country as a whole. In India, I would like to clarify you. In India, Constitution provides the central government to make
Mm-hmm.
laws for particular subjects. It also
Mm-hmm.
provides authority to a state governments to make laws for their own business and at their own. But there are some subjects where a state government and central government both are concerned to make laws. It means only central government or only state government cannot make the change, cannot make the laws. They have to come together. And education policy is one of them. That's
Mm-hmm.
why government recently has issued, cabinet has passed the new education policy, the new national education policy, and it is in discussion country as a whole.
Mm-hmm. So
Then,
this new, sorry, go ahead, continue.
yes, yes, yes.
No, no, please continue.
Come to the point. Uh, Government has now defined the education path of a child, foundation level and primary level and middle level and college level, university level. The main feature of the new policy, you can see in the past policies, there were way of education that if you have taken 4 years degree course and you quit in between the course, you completed only 1 year or 2 years and you left the education, you left your study due to some family problem or any type of problem, and now and then you had to lose each and every education what you have got, nothing like degree or diploma or certificate you were getting. But at present, what the policy has been issued, it provides that if you quit after 1 year, you will get certificate. You quit after 2 years, you will get diploma. And if you complete the um, courses, you will get your degree. This is the main feature of this policy, which was not available in other policies. If you allow me for a few minutes to explain the education system in India, then you will come to know this a special feature of this policy.
Yeah,
Actually,
please do that.
actually India has been slave. The world knows India has been slave for many years, 200 years, more than 200 years, more than 700 years, you can say. But under British rule, it was at almost 190 years. In 1835, the systematic education policy came into force, which was stipulated by Lord Macaulay. Lord Macaulay was of the opinion that whatever good is there, that is English people, and whatever good education, good knowledge, good science, technology, good arts are there, that is only through English language. English people and English language, the policy of that committee that was called Macaulay Minutes, which was implemented in 1835. After Woods, this and it introduced the native language, the vernacular language in Indian education. This was a good sign. Still, it was totally under the pressure of Lord Macaulay system. When India got freedom in 1947, in 48-49, University Education Commission was established under the chairmanship of Dr. Radhakrishnan, who became later the President of India also. And in 1952-53, a secondary education commission was established. And we people of 60-70 years old had got education through that system, 1952-53 system. In 1968, one commission, in 1966-64, one commission was established under the leadership of Kothari, D.S. Kothari, and the education policy as a whole introduced in 1968. That policy was in vogue till 1986, and in whatever policy came into force in 1986, that was amended in 1992, and thereafter, after lapse of 34 years, this policy has come. You have to know the special features of this policy, because nothing drastical change can be seen here. If you want to see something in a better way, you have to go through the voluminous policy. Actually, earlier we got education 10 plus 2 plus 3. 10 means up to secondary level. It was secondary education up to 10 class. 5 up to 5 class, that was primary. 6 and 7 was middle, and 8, 9, 10, 11 was secondary education. Here now government introduces 5, 3, 3 and 4. 5, 3 means by the very earliest, the children of 3 years even, they will be given education through Anganwadi and other way of engaging them in teaching, and thereafter class 1 and 2. These 5 years of the age of a child will be providing some early education to them. This is the foundation stage of education in India as per new policy. And thereafter, class 3, 4, and 5, there are upper class, and thereafter 6, 7, 8 middle. This new policy lays down. In our age, only 6 or 7, 6 and 7 was under middle school, but now 6, 7, and 8. And the problem in Indian education system was considered in the early days also after independence, and still today is language. In Western country, Mr. Jerome may understand it in a better way. They have to get knowledge only, subject-wise knowledge. Whatever subject they want to study, they get the knowledge of the subject. Here in India, since India is an example of unity in diversity, there are so many languages. Even 22 languages are included in Indian constitutions, and there are so many religions, so many cultures, so many sects. Government of India has to keep in mind all these people, because we are the largest democratic republic in the world. We have to maintain, and we have to secure the speciality, the quality, and the fraternity of our own cultural heritage, and that comes through democratic republic. We are democratic republic, the largest democratic republic, and we are having so many languages, rich languages, ancient languages, and that's why only one language is not possible in Indian education system.
Yeah, Mr. Prasad, I'll come to the language. I will come to the language part. I have a couple of questions framed on that piece as well. But Tim, if I have to ask you, Mr. Prasad just elaborated in the way the Indian education system has worked in past and the new education system policy which has been enforced now. If I have to ask you, what is the difference that you see in US and the western part of the world? How different that education system has been there?
Scale.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's break this down. Let's compare to the United States first. We are so young. We've had humanity in the United States for 15,000 years, and now we're learning that we've had people on this continent for 30,000 years, but we don't really have a culture of United States even yet. We have a diversity of cultures. At the same time, we have an identical language. We have a national language, which is really strange. Again, this India, thousands of years of each one of the states has their own history, their own culture, and their own language. And language frames the way we think. So we have all of these diversities, not just in language, but in thought and in religion and in culture. This creates a dilemma. Number one,
Mhm.
we have people who are really different, and it's hard to get along with people who are different. At the same time, we have an opportunity to learn from each other, and this is what makes society great. You create a band of people who, number one, are different, but number two, are committed to being unified. Again, we've decided in our society to call this democracy, and it's the empowering virtue of overcoming our differences so together we can do great things. We have that in the United States for a reason. In India, we have that for another reason. In the United States, we basically built this communication infrastructure with us as we crossed the United States over the last 200 years, and we brought our education with us. So it's rather homogeneous, right? It's one education process. And so when I was talking a week ago, the education on the East Coast of the United States was the education on the West Coast, and we did it for everybody to a great extent. Now,
Mhm.
in India, you have these diversity of people who have different technologies, different knowledge bases, um, and of course, it's understandable why we have English as an initial language in India for education. It's the language of technology. Until what was it, 100 years ago? The language of the court system was French in the United States, and the language of philosophy is still Roman and Greek here. But the traditional language and enforcing it. This is a huge step for India. This is not just a statement to the world, it's a statement in and among India's self saying we are diverse and we are moving forward as a whole community. That's huge. We're not going to see this again until the planet itself decides to decide whether or not it needs one language. This is huge.
True. Yeah, one change that I see, Tim and Mr. Prasad. Mr. Prasad just highlighted that the past versus present and the future, what's coming on the way. In the past, as per the Indian education system is concerned, I have been a part of that. Uh, so the moment you pass out your school and get into an higher education, and then after 2 years you have to choose a subject which can actually decide your future, your profession. You see, I remember when I had to step into a college, I had so many questions, if and buts in my head, and I'm sure many of the people would agree to me. Is if I choose today, by the way, that time when I just passed out my higher education, I mean, I'm talking about the school. I was not that capable of taking a life turning decision. You understand, you guys, what I'm saying, right? If I choose computer science, that computer science will linger with me for the entire life of mine, right? If I choose arts, I will be an arts. not only a student, but then in profession as well. If I choose science, I mean, what I mean is basically that particular age was too early for me to decide in, but I was forced to do that because that was the education policy then. What I see in the new education policy is visionary. You see, the new education policy of India is giving you liberty, is giving you preferences or the choice to even choose after you 2 years, after 1 year, after 3 years of your education into higher education. I mean, once you get into college, you see. So that's what Mr. Prasad said, and Mr. Prasad, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that
No, you are right.
it,
You are right. That is called in this new policy multi-entry and multi-exit. And you can enter in the course anytime, and you can exit anytime. After 1 year, if you exit, you will get certificate. After 2 years, you will exit, you will get diploma. And if you exit after 1 year and come again after 1 year, then you will not lose your 1 year study, because now a credit bank is made. Credit bank means whatever you have got education, whatever ever you have studied in the past for 1 year, that will be credited to your account, to your credit bank, and it will continue the next phase of your education. It means if you completed 1 year, you got certificate, you come again after 1 year, 1 year left, then you will continue your next year uh,
mhm.
when you join. That is called multi entry and multi exit system. This is the special one of the special features of this new policy. And whatever we are telling about the esteem means if you passed matriculation, that is class 10, and you joined in inter, that is college, and you had opted for science or commerce or arts, there were three esteems, and if
Mhm.
you chose one esteem, you will have to continue that esteem. But in this policy, it has been
Yeah,
amended,
and
and you can shift whatever you are telling. Yes, you may continue.
yeah, no. So this sounds fascinating, isn't it? If I today I start, say as an arts, okay, I was a very good guy in writing poems, reading literature. So say for example, I passed out my plus 2, and then I enter into college and I choose to get into arts. After a year, I decide that hey, you know what, arts I don't see interest. The interest, with time the interest also changes, isn't it, Tim? Right, so after a year I see that hey, my interest is has gone away from arts and I want to step into a computer science. So now the new education policy can allow me, I can actually go ahead and do that.
Yes,
But let
yes,
me
yes. That is the
yeah,
specialty.
but let me play a devil's mind here. Let me play a devil's mind now. Don't you think that this further will create a lot of fuss around the students? I mean, students will not able to concentrate. Understand what I'm trying to say? When you have a focused mind, when you have a focused mind, and you know that, hey, you know what? Today, what I have chosen, it will linger with me for life. So I will start my focus more. I will start concentrating more. I will start working hard towards making it a success. But once I have it in my mind that, hey, you know what, tomorrow I can go ahead and change it. Maybe after 2 years, I can change a third subject. By the time I reach fourth year, I probably will get into a new, I say, a new subject altogether. You understand what I'm saying? At the end of 4 years, when I am about to get a degree, I will be of good for none, I would say. Possibly I lose my expertise.
No, no, yes. Such type of if and buts are there, and there are some confusion still, and it has to be clarified later on. The government is working, and government agencies and their experts are working on this subject, and they will get it rectified. But one thing is very much clear, that the after foundation, that is age of 5 years, children enters into primary education and class 6 and 7 and 8. And in this new policy, it has been provided that right from class 6, in our age, we started ABCD learning in class 6. And now the class 6 student will start knowing computer sciences. He will he can opt internship in class 6 also. If the child wants to learn something special, something arts, something painting, something carpentry, anything, he can be allowed to have an internship even in class 6, 7. This is the main changes in the policy. It means the education policy has been fixed on the path of employment, and the Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, under which leadership this policy has been made, has already told that this policy will not generate unemployment. It means this policy will generate employment, self-employment. If children were allowed in their childhood, in the class 6, 7, and 8, to opt their subject, to opt their subject of choice, and to opt internship and a special learning, they can go in the industries, the concerned industry, the concerned shop, the concerned workshop, and they can learn. It means the government wants that a child should learn his livelihood, his way of working, his way of life, right from class 6. This is the main changes in the new policy, which provides not only education, the regular education, the traditional education, but the vocational education is being provided under this new policy.
Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Prasad, that we are knowingly or unknowingly we are trying to put a lot of pressure on the kids out there, right from standard 6th education?
You are right. It is seen, it is understood that even in class 6, if the children were given such type of burden of studies, on the way, one hand, the government is telling that the burden of school bags will be lightened, and on the other hand, the such type of subjects are being introduced. There is a contradiction in the statement and the policy seen on the paper. Government has to clarify. I think it requires some clarification. What type of easement is being provided to the students, and what type of the learning skills will be given. It will be decided. It will be decided. It will now Education Commission will also be formed, I think so, and that the commission will segregate the subjects-wise aspects for the children. That's why what we understand that there is a confusion or there is a burden. Maybe at present it look like burden and confusion, but when the policy in a particular aspect will be formulated and segregated, then maybe that it would not look like that as a burden or confusion.
I see that. So more clarifications is expected, and yeah, that's obvious.
Expected. More clarifications expected, because this is very voluminous. I would like to tell you, this policy draft was produced, put up in 2019 May, on 31st May, I think so, and it was of about 460 pages. 460 pages, that draft policy. And this policy, whatever we are seeing and have been finalized, is also of 60, 70 pages. And
Mhm.
each and every subjects and aspects has been um, uh, included in the policy like a formula, and that formula
Mhm.
is still to be clarified and to be
Mhm.
explained. The
Mhm.
explanation will clarify all these things. I think so.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. Tim, a question to you. Back in the United States out there, uh, on the education system, uh, is it more vocational driven or is it more uh, employment or employment capability driven?
So that's the big question. Each university is its own entity, and each part of the United States is its own entity. We experienced what you did, with the transition and the maturity of the approach of education, where all of a sudden, you have an ability to change your path, which is great, but with great freedom becomes a great responsibility and accountability. And how do you teach a person between the age of 18 to 26 to make decisions that's going to impact their lives for the rest of their, for until they're 80? And we struggle with this. And we're between when I finished my graduate work and my children were approaching, their teenage years in education, the objective was starting to change from getting a diploma
Mhm.
to being successful in life. And they understood when I was going through education, it was very well understood that if you don't have the students who are committed and engaged in this decision making, they they're not going to make good decisions. But at the same time, the schools were not structured for that. They were teaching good certificates and diplomas, but they weren't teaching good life skills and good success and good ability to just make decisions. And the embracing of the classics is wonderful to hear across the board, having a foundation, because that's what they were trying to do when I was going through my undergraduate program at university. Teach people how to think, teach them how to make good decisions. And once we have that in place, then let's talk to you about how do I make good decisions about my career and my life. Now, at the same time, this is happening in education, right? At the same
Mhm.
time, you have some people out in business, outside in education, who are saying corporations are making mistakes left and right, and we see people as basically the results of our education system with the wrong objectives. And they're saying, here's how you make good decisions. And here's what happens when you get in the middle of your life and you made the wrong decision, or maybe you made the right decision and life changes totally. And this is what we've been talking about all along. How do I actually transition my personal life from thinking about being prepared for a skill or diploma to being prepared for the unknown? And how do I
Mhm.
balance that with the requirement that some of the skills we need, you have to be invested in them for years before you can actually be employable in them? And so I think this is going to be a dilemma that not just India, not just United States, but us as a whole society are going to be struggling with. How do I help people? Number one, invest in enough time to become experts. Number two, give them the ability to be flexible. Flexibility is what kept corporations alive the last 4 months. And we have to be able to have a conversation with this, as well as, staying true to what you believe. And honestly, I bless us all, between the age of 18 and 28, we are not ready to make these type of decisions. We need an infrastructure. We need not just good teachers. We need people who are invested in the future of our society, who can be with the students, not just in the classroom, but as a community, so we can actually help support each other.
Got it. Yep. Yep. No, that's true. Diversity is fine, but then there has to be a line drawn in which should actually decide and should help you to become an expert. I mean, that's the whole agenda. Let me take these questions in a different track now. Mr. Prasad, you are known to be an official language expert. May I ask you, in your career or at present, uh, how do you see language? And when I come to a specific, how do you see a official language that's called Hindi? Uh, have you seen, or let me ask you this, what's the difference that you see the north part of India and the south part of India? Because the north part of India is known to know Hindi, whereas south part of India doesn't so much well versed with Hindi. In your career, have you seen the differences and experienced troubles out there?
Very good question, Mr. Kumar. Before going into this north and south aspects and Hindi, I would like to tell something about Indian education system in the past. You
Mhm.
know, more than 5,000 years, our civilizations are there, and that time in Taxila, the world, the best and the largest education hub in the world that was considered, and from the several parts of the world, people used to come to learn uh, here. Our Vedic education system was there. In Nalanda and in Vikramshila, we had universities. Today, whatever Harvard University and Cambridge University, we see in the past, we had university like that, and there was no problem at all, because that time only Sanskrit language was there, and medium of education was Sanskrit, and all the knowledges were in the in Sanskrit. Still today, we find the best knowledge of the world in Sanskrit language.
Mhm.
But after sometimes, when the foreign invasion was started in India, India got complicated in religions, in sects, in languages, in cultures and civilizations. That's why it is called a composite culture in India. There's composite culture in India, and composite culture consists of several languages, several way of living, several cultural heritage, and that's why, being a democratic republic of the world, the largest democratic republic of the world, we have to maintain our this cultural heritage and diversity uh, uh, of the country. Still, after independence, India started thinking on the amalgamated way of education. And one language, Mr. Tim was telling about its national language. Yes, public know that Hindi is national language, but in the constitution, Hindi is accepted as the official language. Official language means, the language through which the official transaction of government is done. That is official language. But national language as a whole for the country, for all the parts of the country, for all the people of the country, education national language is one. But official language are different of the states. And whatever you were telling in differences or a gap between north and south states of the country, yes, I have to accept these differences or gap in our south states and north states, because south is also having a cultural heritage, a language heritage, ancient language and rich language heritage. North is also. But the Hindi, what we say Hindi is not a language of a state. Neither north states, nor south state, nor east state, nor west state. Hindi is not a particular language of a particular state. As like Tamil is for Tamil Nadu, Telugu is for Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, and Kannada is for Karnataka, Bengali is for West Bengal, Udiya is for Odisha, Assami is for Assam. What states concerned with Hindi? No states. India as a whole concerned with Hindi. Hindi is a language of this composite culture. Hindi, I must say, Hindi, itself is a word coming from Parsi language. That is called Persian language. Hindi word is of Persian language. Understand my point? Hindi word,
I didn't knew that before.
yeah, Hindi word comes from Persian language. It means in formation of Hindi, contributions from each and every parts of India, even from other sides, from outside India, people came here and they contributed their cultural heritage, their language. In India, Hindi is a composite language and it is known, it is written. If not written, it is read. If not read, it is spoken. If not spoken, it is understood. Almost all part of the countries. That's why one language is needed for communication, for contact. Official transaction is another thing. But people transaction, people communication is quite different thing. And Hindi is itself proved itself that Hindi is capable to be the communication language in India as a whole. And that's why government in this policy, I'm coming to the point, in this policy, government has formulated that up till primary education, the children will be getting education through their mother tongue, local language, state language, whatever they know from their family, from their local people, from their states. That will be the medium of education up till primary level. Although it was also in the past, also in the 1968 policy, it was there. In 1952 policy, it was there. Even in 1853-54, what Wood's dispatch was there, it was also provided there. But here government clarify all these things, and after that, English and other language, Indian language will be included. Mother tongue, and thereafter English, and thereafter one Indian language. It means this is the trilingual formula. Trilingual formula was there in 1968 also. Why required it? Why? This is the question. Mr. Tim, I think may not understand like this diversity and this confusing point. Why three language? Because Every state has its own language as mother tongue. Every person wants higher education, and higher education is to be given in English language. And if travel abroad for educations will be getting in English language in Western countries. That's why one international language is needed. And within India, all people do not know English. All people do not know mother tongue of Tamil Nadu in North, mother tongue of Telugu, Andhra Pradesh in Assam. Assam language not understood in Gujarat. That's why one national level language for communication needed. The trilingual formula is there in Indian education system always. However, I should say that not clearly mentioned in this policy about trilingual, how they will implement, that is more confusing. I have clarified in my article somewhere. There is more confusing, and I have already advised the government through my article that government should have adopted a more practical method to get this trilingual formula implemented in the country, because if you formulate in the policy that Hindi will be taught all over the country by all the states which are not having Hindi as a language, they object. How they can be consoled? How they can be consoled? I advise the government should make policy by sitting together all the chief ministers of all the states, education ministers, all the states, and the leaders of assemblies of all the states and central government, and they must formulate a policy that at least one language from non-Hindi speaking area is taught in Hindi speaking area, and Hindi will be taught in all the non-Hindi speaking area. And if the language of non-Hindi speaking area will be taught in Hindi speaking area, there will be some mutual understanding that their language are also taught. If may say in Bihar, Tamil will be taught, in UP, Telugu will be taught, in Madhya Pradesh, Kannada will be taught. That's like that. I mean to say, like that, distribution of the language of non-Hindi speaking states should be like that. Each and every language of non-Hindi speaking is taught in Hindi speaking states. Thereafter, Hindi will be accepted by all the states which are called non-Hindi speaking states, and all the expenditures, all the expenses incurred on this language system should be borne by the central government. This is my suggestion to the government, my advice to the government, what I have given them. But what they will do, I don't understand. And in the policy, it is not clear. After that, I think that everything will be clarified by the government agencies and commissions to be formulated. They will come and they will clarify it. It will take, it is long-term investment. Education, what education? This education policy is a long-term investment, I must say. Long-term investment means we make deposit in bank for long term and get interest in installment, or we get accumulated maturity value at the last maturity at the maturity of the deposit. Likewise, this education policy accrue the installment of interest, the quality of the education, and it will come into the eyes of the people like a fruit. After some time, it will take some time. The government has already told that it is 2030. This is 2020, but it will have to keep in mind 2030.
Right, right.
From the next year, that is 2021-22 financial year session, education system or financial year, both are the same. Like this education policy is to be considered to be implemented.
Right.
In India and in US, Mr. Tim was telling, there is difference because we have in US you have to learn the language, you have to learn the knowledge, but in India you have to learn language also before knowledge. The
How many
double
languages?
knowledge burden. Yes,
Sorry.
yes, tell.
Yeah. No, I was asking Tim. Back in the United States, how many languages? Are there any other languages apart from English, or English is the only language there?
English is the primary language, and the
Mhm.
people who have migrated to the United States have small pockets of communities. And if you agree with Timothy Leary back in the 1960s that language is the freezing of thought, language actually structures the very way we think. Language of technology, language of music, language of philosophy, language of science, and we have one language. What's brilliant about this is that you, Mr.
Mhm.
Prasad, you pointed out three different languages that everybody in India is going to embrace. Number one, my mother tongue, which means when I'm young, I learn my morals and values.
Mhm.
So if I have people who share the same mother tongue, I have the same morals and values as they do. I have an English language understanding, which means I'm a member of the global community of commerce and education and business. And so I share the ability to interact as an individual and as a group with the greater part of the world. And I have this language in the middle that identifies me with a nation, with an empire of countries. And that is noble and it's going to take years.
Mhm.
And it's going to take a lot of investment and understanding, and everybody understanding why we're doing this. And I see why the government says it's going to take time, because you don't explain this to groups of people. You explain this to each and every individual, and that's what they embrace. Yeah, this is not just noble. This is brilliant. If
Yeah, I mean, mhm.
go
No,
ahead, go ahead, Kumar.
sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I'm finished. I'm finished.
All right. No, what I was saying is, I totally see. I mean, these kind of changes to the policies out there, it's not for a month or weeks, basically. Yeah, it will. It need time to give out results, as Mr. Prasad said. And I see this particular policy uh, as a visionary. Absolutely, it's a visionary thoughts which has been actually put in place. But it would also, for any good policies out there, it's very important that your implementations theories also should be written pretty clear way, so that your implementation methodologies should be well defined. And that's what in the coming days India has to actually come and see and validate that. But yeah, I mean, wonderful. I mean, what a discussion. I mean, this discussion can go for another 2 3 hours or maybe a days. We can bring in back, but I'd like to ask you one last question. Again, coming back to the education, can education be priceless, Tim?
It has to be priceless. It is the way we share commonality. This is the way we get together. This is the way we share information and grow and progress. It's not progress itself, but it actually is the foundation of progress. How we can work together and agree. If we both call a rock, we agree. We have something in common. And if we can actually share information and learn and grow, that's the foundation of not just society, but a thriving society. So it has to be priceless. But on the other side of the spectrum, it has to be free. The investment itself is going to be costly. It takes time, but at the same time, it has to be priceless and it has to be free as well.
One last comment from Mr. Prasad. How do you see this education as a priceless? What's your comments?
Yes, yes, yes. Very good question. Because education is a pivot of civilization, cultural, and all the activities of a man, of a country, or even of the world. Education gives you way of life to lead your life, to communicate yourself, to make communication between you and other people, and all the estates of your countries, and your country with other countries. Education is, as Mr. Tim told, yes, education is priceless, because whatever education you have, that will decide what type of your future life will be. Because you learn one thing in your childhood, one thing in your school life, and one thing in your college life, university life, and in technical education life. May be different. Maybe things are different in all the stages of the life. But the education as a whole enriches you to lead your life in a better way that cannot be substituted by any price of the thing, of the gold, of the land, of anything. That's why education is priceless.
With all our, with
Yes, am
all
I
hearts,
clear?
I agree. Yeah, with all hearts, I agree to what you just mentioned. Yeah, education need to be treated a little different the way in the last 2 decades it has been. It has got treated. Let me put it that way. Yeah, I mean, it is the way of life, and that decides your future. Not only your future, your community future, your country future, and the whole civilizations out there. I mean, it has to go beyond a price tag. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming in and investing or spending time with me and discussing on this important topic. I am so glad that both of you had taken time out of your busy schedule and joined in. Tim, thank you so much for making this happen. Uh,
Oh, thank you both. This is
Thank you,
thrilling
thank you very much.
to be part of this
Thank you,
conversation.
Mr. Tim.
Thank you.
yeah,
It's an
Mr.
honor.
Prasad.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
It's
you,
an
Mr.
honor.
Kumar.
yeah, Mr. Prasad. Thank you so much for coming in. I wish we should do this discussion maybe in the next week as well. We have a lot to talk on education, isn't it? Tim and Mr. Prasad. I mean, there is a lot of questions that coming to my mind, and there are a lot of questions that the viewers has asked. And but in the shortage of time, we have just crossed 60 minutes. That's this time frame that we had. So I think we need to come back again, possibly next week, to continue our discussion on this and take things
That
forward.
would be most
Yes,
excellent.
yes, you are right here, because there are so many aspects of this education system or presently whatever is announced by the government, the new national education policy. There are so many aspects. We cannot discuss in 1 hour or 2 hour all the aspects because it is huge. Combinations of so many things, so many subjects, so many ways. It requires a day-long discussion. Still,
we shall.
in this 60, 70 minutes, we have discussed in a very well manner and with a compact
It's a good start.
subject-wise discussion.
It's a good
Is
start.
It's a good start. And next time, Mr.
Yes.
Prasad, when we are coming back, I would like you to talk a little bit more about your book, which you have written, the biography, the things that you have mentioned. Tim is also on his way to
I could not
complete
get
his
your
book.
question.
No, I said that when next
I
time
could
we are
not-
meeting. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear
yes,
you.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Prasad, can you hear me?
Yes. Now I'm hearing.
Okay. No, I said that next time when we are coming back, I would like you to speak a bit about your book, your biography that you have written, to give out details what is expected in that book. We'll talk a bit on that book when we come next week or so.
Sure.
Very
Definitely.
good.
All right. Thank you so much,
Definitely.
gentlemen,
Okay.
for joining in. Tim, you enjoy your day ahead. And Mr. Prasad,
I always do. And thank you
have a
both.
wonderful
And
night.
thank you, Kumar. Have a
Thank
great
you
day.
so much.
Have a good day, Mr. Prasad.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay,
Good day.
thank you.